Hello and welcome to episode 72. I got it right this time of the DrawDrinkn podcast.
Nice.
With Gary Duffner, myself, and we have the owners of Rogue City Comics, Jimmy and Steven, tonight.
I think Gary
Well, hello. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. Since last we saw each other, it was summertime, 100 degrees.
Yes.
Roiling hot in the Rogue Valley.
It's a dry heat, though.
Dry heat.
Yeah.
It's a dry heat.
Whatever. I wasn't dry. I was sweaty. It was horrible.
What were you drinking?
Yeah. But I got out before the fire, so I guess that's a good thing.
Oh, fires.
So
it's been a rough year here for everybody.
For sure. No, I mean, this year's been definitely a unique one for the record books. And earlier this year, Gary has a good relationship with a retailer in Florida. Gary lives in Florida. And so we had them come on, and because we were really interested how they were handling, the economic impact of the pandemic. And this is like April,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah. So it was really early. We had them onto the show because we were really curious how stores were handling it. So, and I think it's an important part because I think there's a lot of facets of the comic industry that get overlooked. Primarily the all the connective tissue between a keyboard or a drawing board to the reader's hands.
Yes.
There's an editorial chain, there's a production chain, there's a printing chain, a supply chain, a distribution chain, and then a retail chain. So none of this stuff is visible to most people, and in some ways even overlooked. You can walk into a comic book store and just take it for granted. For my generation, a comic book shop was a rarity, to say the least.
He got his at a gas station.
A lot of mine came from a gas station.
Yeah, 7-Eleven. That was like the place. And
mine was actually a 5 and dime.
Wow. Yeah.
Spinner Rex?
It was in Brewster, New York.
Well, okay.
Yeah, Brewster's a nice town. I didn't know you. Did you grow up in Brewster?
I grew up in Brewster.
That's when
I was a wee young lad.
Yeah, that's a good place. For all those people who ever get a chance to go to Brewster, go check it out. It's really nice. So, what was your first? What was your first reaction, and how did you sort of like consider like what was happening? Because it was pretty swift.
Well, so if you ask anyone who loves comics, comics are essential. So for us, thankfully, we are in an area where they weren't shutting down all retail. So we were able to just kind of go with the flow and, take all the precautions, but still be here because really this is a happy place for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And comics, you guys hopefully experience a lot of joy in creating your art, and we get to see people actually pick up their books and see their faces and the joy on their faces. So
there's still joy, huh? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The downside was they didn't print comic books for like 7.
That was rough.
7 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks.
Rough.
So what we did to accommodate, and I know there are stores that don't do this, but we have a lot of back issues. So what I did was I went through my back room and just priced as many back issues as I possibly could. Put them up on the wall, put them in bins, so that
lots of bundles,
story
art bundles.
I put story art bundles
People
together.
Love those.
Yeah, so when they weren't printing, I was in panic mode a little bit because there's no new comics. So I went through back issues, talked to all my customers, and say, hey, this is a great time to catch up on maybe a series you missed in the 80s, you know, and priced a bunch of bundles. And so our local supporters, they were pretty faithful in coming in and buying back issues during that time, that 7-week period where there was no new comics.
They were amazing, honestly. Our comic book community, and I mean, they're like family for us. I had no idea how much we would grow to love our customers. I mean, they're amazing, and the people, I don't know, like it's so wonderful to get to be in their lives. For some people, they don't have anyone else in their life that they get to talk comics with. So we get to connect, you know, and it's fantastic. And then we have different comic book family meeting other comic book family, and then they all get to know each other. And we really went into this with a desire to connect with our community. And that's one of my favorite things about comics, is that people from every walk of life, from every type of thinking process or point of view, we can agree oftentimes on comics, that comics are amazing. And we're glad that you all are making them because they make life better.
Yeah, they do.
So something that popped in my head when we were going over this is that how did you sort of gather information as to sort of a best practices? Because, you know, you had developed your best practices to a point as, you know, as a retailer, and then, you know, the whole field shifts. DC says, well, we're not going to go with Diamond anymore. I mean, there were a lot of fast moving elements, you know, 6 months ago. And how did you, I mean, were you contacting other retailers? Were you looking at other companies, like completely not comic books, but how? Steven?
So Steve, his brain, like, I'm just going to brag on him. He was in the military, in military intelligence, and, you know, we've heard all the jokes. And strategist. He's very analytical, which most of the time I love, but sometimes it drives me crazy.
A lot of times it drives me crazy.
So he you know, he went right to it. Like, he knew instinctually, okay, this is just what we do. And then for us, like, we were just thankful that our people, I mean, we did some curbside as well, but our people kept coming in because they care about us being here.
We talked to them. Once they announced the shutdown, I immediately was talking to all my biggest customers and talking to them about the need. Hey, if you want us to be around, we're fine right now.
Some bundles over here.
Yeah, but we got a lot of stuff still on our shelves. It's a great time to catch up on a bunch of other things that you missed. Because a lot of people have a budget for comics every week. So, and I encourage several people who only read new comics, and there are the certain percentage of our customers that only read new comics. I said, well, I'll tell you what, put that $25, come in, put that $25 down, and I set up an account for a bunch of customers so that when they start coming out, you don't know how fast they're going to come out. They could release them all at once, and I said, well, put aside some money so that you're ready when it comes out, because and a lot of them did. I mean, they came in and
helped a lot of people.
They put money on their account every week while they were gone, and so
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
We came up with several strategies during that time. We had picks of the week for graphic novels and trade paperbacks and hardcovers, and every week I was putting out probably 500 to 1,000 back issues.
Yeah.
Wow.
We stayed late.
We stayed late a lot just to try to pay the bills, but we didn't have diamond bills, and we didn't have the distributor bills, so our costs were lower during that time. So all I had to do was make sure that I was pricing enough stuff that there was new and interesting things on the shelves. We created an entire rack of what we call new oldies, which we
People love old comics. Nothing smells like an old comic. Like, it's the best.
I feel like an old comic fan either.
I got her snorting comics all the time.
I should have bought that Hawkman. We had an old Hawkman. It was like a $9 comic, and I wanted to buy. It was one of the best smelling comics.
It was
ever.
a 1960 Hawkman, and it meant nothing except for the smell.
No, it had a nice cover too.
Yeah, I love it.
Shout out to our landlords too. They're tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for giving us rent that is affordable and that makes us able to kind of ride the storm out.
Yeah, our landlords have been great and working with us, and we listen to some podcasts. We listen to podcasts that interview other retailers and whatnot, and kind of listen to what some other retailers are doing during that time, and listen to
Pivot. Everybody was saying pivot.
Yeah,
pivot.
Be ready to pivot.
We didn't have to go online.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I really liked is that, this is a relatively new phenomenon as far as I'm aware of, and I'm saying new, probably somewhere in the last 5 to 10 years, is the bundles of runs. Because I remember going to a shop 5 to 7 years ago and seeing these bundled up runs of things. I'm like, oh, I have all that stuff, and I'm like, but it's such a great idea, because it's not the trade paperback, it's the opportunity to sit and like read through the issues and get the complete sense of what that was. And it makes complete sense. Like, hey, I'm looking at your pull list, and you read a ton of Hawkman, sure. That one. But like you could say, hey, listen, I don't know if you know, but like in 1984 there was a phenomenal like 8-issue Hawkman, run, with Grant Morrison, I'm making it up, and because I don't want people going out there going, I heard this amazing thing. So, but it's a great model, because you get to really have people dive into what the love of comic books, because listen, trade paperbacks are amazingly convenient, but they're not comics.
Right.
It's a completely different, or not completely different, but it's a very different experience. It's the binge watching of of entertainment versus
and people have their preference.
Yeah, there are people. The younger crowd tends to like the graphic novel and the trade paperback because they don't like waiting. But
old people like me don't like waiting either. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I don't either. But I also
that's good that they don't like waiting.
A little overwhelmed when I get an entire graphic novel and I go, "Oh wow, I'm not done." Oh, well, that's usually a sign I shouldn't be reading that one. But but I do like reading individual issues, because it's bite-sized chunks. It's like an episode. It gives me something to look forward to. And I binge things. We both do, and we're not allowed to do that. That's kind of a store rule. We're allowed to read the first several issues of series, and
I've read so many like volume number 1s that I'm just dying to get to number. But because I need to know all.
Give me a full story, damn it.
No, that's true. You can't be like, hey, can you recommend comics, and you like have like 3 that you could recommend because you're the West Coast expert on Doom Patrol. How did the DC separation with Diamond sort of work out with you? I mean, I know that there was a lot of sort of like panic initially.
Ordering.
It created.
He does all the ordering, so I may have heard some special words,
some choice words.
It created paperwork.
Okay.
It created paperwork, and because it's not all linked into, we have the Diamond distributor POS. Our sales system is from Diamond, and so it's created extra paperwork. I have now spreadsheets for a lot of my DC product, but ultimately, in 3 months, 4 months, man, maybe where are we at? 5 months?
Yeah.
We're 5 months of working with the other distributor. They send their comics in a box.
Imagine this. It's like they like comics.
They wrap the outer box in bubble wrap, and then they put it in another. They put it in another.
So even if it gets dropped, the odds of damages.
I've had one shortage and one damage in 5 months, and this week with Diamond we had, and not to
one of the worst.
This week at Diamond
one of the worst I've ever seen.
We had probably 36 damages.
But a box got dropped and
2 boxes got dropped.
Yeah.
And they don't pack them the same way. Yeah. So while I don't appreciate the extra paperwork on the front side of ordering and then making sure once I receive it, making sure everybody gets all their comics, what I do appreciate is that I don't have to worry about sending a report about 30 plus damages.
Yeah.
It's bad.
That's encouraging. I mean, it sounds like at least there's a sense of establishing a customer, relationship by providing good service in the shipping.
Yeah, so far. It's been great.
Yeah, we got a message from Sean. Sean is our most loyal viewer in the history of viewers. There's not a person who tunes into it. Yeah, he's a great aspiring comic book artist making his own books out in Staten Island.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's doing some great stuff, and he's killing it and working hard. So we love you, Sean.
He's killing it.
Yeah. So all right, let's wheel the wheel back a bit here. I know a little bit of your background, but and I believe, Stephen, you were the initial comic book enthusiast out of the duo of you. That's no.
I was.
We both. No, as a kid.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford them, so I read my neighbor's comics.
Archie.
Okay, were they Archie comics?
Richie Rich, all the ducks, Little Sad Sack.
Little Sad,
yeah. They didn't read superheroes, so that's
Little Sack.
Little Lou.
It was great.
Those are comics.
They're absolutely comics.
They're a type of comic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
however,
I don't know what would have happened if I had gotten a hold of superheroes.
I know. See, she had no idea of the world.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. She had no idea of the world until we were prepping to open the store. She had read some of my Daredevil. I'm a longtime Daredevil fan. She had read some of my Daredevil because I was
very well versed in Daredevil.
Yeah, she's very well versed in Daredevil.
Deep.
And but now she actually reads and buys more than I do.
Nice.
Which is bizarre.
So, Stephen, what was your intro into
happiness?
Oh,
what's that?
I was asking Stephen, what was your intro into comics? Like, how old were you, and what was the
70s? So probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
When we go on family vacations, when we'd stop and read. Or stop for gas. We got a lot of my early collection was gas, and I remember reading Green Lantern and Sergeant Rock. Those are the 2 earliest memories I had. Big time. As a matter of fact, Sergeant Rock I would blame as to one of the reasons I was very open to joining the military. I love the Green Lantern and Sergeant Rock. Then when Frank Miller's Born Again came out, that's about when I started getting into some Marvel comics. And I really haven't looked back on DC nearly as much because Daredevil kind of stole the show for me. And there's been a lot of good writers and whatnot since then, as far as the superheroes go. But it was probably 7 or 8, and my parents, like I said, they would buy Star Wars. Marvel by mail. Mm-hmm. So they would get, because we didn't have a store, and I wasn't always on vacation. So my parents wanted to encourage me to read. So I got a Star Wars subscription via mail. So
I got to go on vacation. He was rich.
No, we were very middle class, and she was definitely on the other side of the tracks from middle class. They didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
No, but I have the best story about why I love comics.
All right.
Okay.
So I got trained by my friends next door, their dad. So I'd be over there, we'd be playing, and if I was lucky, I'd get invited over for lunch. And lunch included comics, and nobody talked. There was no speaking. We just ate and read, and like now, still two of my favorite things.
Yeah, but we don't allow reading and eating at the same time.
There were potato chips. This guy would have had an aneurysm.
No Cheetos on touching the comics.
You have to wear white gloves to touch his comics.
Yeah.
Right. We don't want the GCG knocking on the door and kicking it over.
Right.
Yeah. Or is it CGC? Whatever.
CGC.
There you go. That's all. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, well, when you get introduced to it as a young person, there are these sort of like moments, like you bond with it. It's the stop making noise in the car on the family vacation, comic book, or I get to spend time with, friends, and, and it's like a nurturing kind of a thing that you had, Jami. There's this, and that sticks with you. So, I think it's great. And listen, the Born Again run, David Mazzucchelli, I mean, that's some of the greatest comic books ever. So, if that doesn't hook you as a comic book fan,
for sure.
No idea what, you're never going to be a fan. So
I will say that nowadays it's tougher to reach out to the young people, mostly because you're competing with electronics.
Sure.
And when, they just hand them a Game Boy, I guess, I don't know if Game Boy's even a thing anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
They have his phone now.
Oh yeah, I guess they only need a phone now. But that's what you do on vacation. You hand your kid electronics, and then when they're bored, and also, they have DVD players in cars.
It was a simpler time when we grew up.
And so I think it's harder to reach, which is why we buy a lot of all ages, the free comic book day stuff, and we try to reach out to the younger people. And when we get a parent in who's trying to get their kid to read, we try to connect them with the right thing to read. We encourage them to unplug the video games, because honestly, I'm not 100% sure I would have been reading if I had the video games they have now.
No, you definitely wouldn't.
I don't know if I would have had the discipline back then to go, oh yeah, I want to read this.
Right.
There's a video game where I can get up to level 155.
My gosh, he had a Yucata addiction, because we're like big time board game players and fans.
Okay.
So he was on this Yucata site, like he was addicted. He's like, babe, I'm first in the world, and all this.
It's a German website.
We will meet people for the very first time, and somehow he'll work into the conversation how many games on Yucata he's number one in, and I'm like, wow, did you just say that? But it's like
2,000, 3,000 players. I want to brag a little bit.
Yeah, you should. So. You're awesome, babe.
I don't play that anymore because it is addictive, and life's too short to be hooked to electronics.
Yeah. The first thing I always do when I would buy a computer is I would delete the games that were already because I can't tell you how many hours I had wasted playing Sweeper. I'm like, I can beat this screen in 6 seconds.
I have never played a game on my phone, not once.
No, I can't say that.
I don't know how.
I'm sure I did when the iPhone first came out. I'm sure I probably played a game or two, but they're deadly. So you went into the military. So were comic books still on the road with you, like when you were in the military and afterwards?
Yeah, I was Army National Guard, so I didn't travel nearly as much.
Okay.
I had stints where I traveled, but and brief periods of active duty. But I always had but it was never, I think the longest was 6 months in Arizona.
Yeah.
6 months in Arizona. But I always had, at that point, because that was in the early 90s, at that point I had a local comic shop that knew I was good for the money. And so they would hold on.
Oh, okay.
By the time I came back to them, I'd have half a short box.
He had subscriptions till we had our 4 kids.
Yeah, once we had the 4 kids, I kind
of had to put on the back burner.
Yeah, because I wanted to be able to feed them and all.
Yeah, I guess. Sure, I guess.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Diapers.
Diapers, all that. So, but no, I was able to keep up. I will say that I took a break when a lot of people took a break, and that is
The 90s.
late 90s.
Yeah.
I took a break, and then once my kids were like in that 8 through 10 range, and I started introducing them to comics. So in the mid 2000s, so say 2005, I started collecting again for a long time while my kids were doing all the reading and whatnot. And then then I had another blackout period.
We're mean. We made our kids read.
Yeah, we made it read. It was a half hour a day. And we don't care if you don't read, but you're sitting on the couch and doing nothing, and here's a pile of stuff. Or you can read.
Right.
But no, I had blackout periods of probably 5 and 6 years where I read virtually nothing.
Okay.
So
we had some catching up to do.
Yeah, we had some catching up to do when we opened the store. So
yeah, well, I mean, so what was the transition? I mean, what was the drive? What was the shift? Like, where do you go? Like, hey, you know, we got food and we've got family.
Exactly.
And now,
our kids moved out.
Yeah. Okay. So
while our kids were, I think, juniors in high school, I started talking about the idea, and then. You know, once they moved out, they all kind of launched like not long after graduation. And so we had an empty nest, and he was not really enjoying being in the pharmaceutical industry. And so we started doing some research. We didn't have a comic shop in our town. And I had the name picked out since like 2010. And I was just like, babe, come on, let's do it. And it's terrifying giving up pharmaceutical benefits and money and company car. I'm like, hey, let's trade it all in and maybe, you know, still be able to buy food. But he finally was ready for a shift because for us, starting a business was more about not only the need for a comic shop in our town, but also a need to connect with our community in a different way because he was getting old and crotchety, just being on the road selling pharmaceuticals. And he's a much happier camper right now.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't show in my face, but I am a much happier.
So, and the way that he's connected with, you know, the people here, and it's been wonderful. I feel like our quality of life has gone up. I mean, you know, sometimes I miss a regular paycheck.
Sure.
And insurance, I'm working part-time. I have been for over a year at Starbucks for our benefits. And I work with a great group of people, but we're living the dream, but we're also working harder than we ever have in our life.
But it's way more fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, I remember leaving, you know, I left a corporate gig. And it was a fantastic job, but I was so much happier, you know, air quotes, struggling, you know, after the fact, you know, because I was doing the things that I really, really wanted or needed to do in my life. You know, I think we spend a little too much time trying to accumulate whatever the things that we think we need to accumulate for some unknown reason. Now, as long as you have a roof over your head and you have food in your stomach, I mean, you got 90% of it covered right there. You know, the rest of it you can figure out pretty quick. I know. And you were talking about, like, you know, the enjoyment that you have with your customers. I mean, you guys have a great Instagram feed, and I honestly, I flip through all the multiple pictures of them. Like, I don't just because I see I can see the people, like when we visited you, you know, like, oh, can we take your picture? You know, and I was like, what? You know, but like I see it, and I see like the kids, and are you gonna take my picture too, Gary?
I'm going to Instagram. I'm going to Rogue City Comics,
and they, you know, but like, and I see the variety of books in the kids' hands. Like, I'm not seeing just Avengers and X-Men and Justice League and Batman. Like, I'm seeing a wide variety of reading happening in the young people who are, coming into your store with their parents.
It's great.
Well,
are you guys, look at Gary's showing us.
Oh
wow. Yeah, we have a few followers.
Boy, that's all organic too. Gosh, I used to love marketing. I would geek out so hard on marketing until I had to do it. Now I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh. If we ever make a lot of money, I would love to pay for someone else to do all that, because this guy is like, he's a tough boss. I mean, I love him, but he's like, hey, why'd you word that like that? And I'm like, because my brain doesn't work anymore.
She's very artsy, and I'm very numbers focused.
Yeah.
So, but it makes a good combination, you know, and we love for people to have a great experience when they come in, and we try to capture that experience and share it with others so that, other people see other families coming in, because we're a very family friendly comic store in the sense of
gotta be.
Yeah, our ultimate goal is to create new comic book readers, because if you focus only on the people who have been doing it like me for a very long time, well, we're going to die eventually, I'm guessing. So you want to have that younger audience. Plus, I'm very passionate about reading. I'm very passionate about getting off of electronics and exercising.
Yeah, don't get them started if you ever come to the store.
Exercising the brain, because we're creating a bunch of young people who are addicted to the dopamine of very quick gratification, and I think it's harmful. And so we try to create an experience that people are excited about and like.
Yeah, well, I think your shop sort of like, it doesn't stand. It does. You don't walk into the store and go, "Oh, this is just like just an average comic book store." It feels different, which I like. I mean, I walked in, I was like, "Oh, this is nice." Like it feels a bit more like a retail space, if that makes sense, versus just a comic book store. And not that just a comic store is bad, because I stop into comic book stores wherever I go. I mean, that's how I stopped in your shop.
Love them all. We wanted something that was more, not only that would lure in people who don't think they like comics, like we wanted to make it super friendly to anybody.
Spouses, their friend who isn't interested. Make it bright, cheerful, exciting.
But the idea for us, like why we went with black and white, is because we have artwork that is mind-blowing on all of these books that we just like. Our goal is to elevate the medium. We wanted it to look like a gallery, because each book is a work of art. I mean, some are better than others, obviously. I mean, there's some that isn't as good as others necessarily, but for me, I think the magic of comics, one of the things I marvel at is, like, picture a room of like the first 10 people you can think of, or the first 10 people on your Facebook friends list or whatever, and try to order a pizza. And then like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if people can order a pizza together with that many people. And yet, you take a group of anywhere from 4 to 8 people on a comic book, artists who feel very strongly about what they're doing, as well as writers who also feel passionate about what they're doing, and you get this.
Oh, and then you gotta hand it to. I know what she's talking about. It took me a minute.
What are you talking about? Bring together all these people. To me, it's
hand
a miracle.
Hand it to a colorist, and then the colorist does their job. And you gotta hand it to the letterer. They gotta hand it. So
people come together.
So it is a piece of art in the sense that people need to work together.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful example. It would be great to see that happen in politics, where you can get, a few people together to create something beautiful. And something that stays with you. I mean, think of your favorite stories and your favorite comics. Like, they stay with you.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's it's the first thing we did is, you know, as human beings, we created stories. I mean, that's how we passed information on from generation to generation before we could write things down. So how did you created mnemonics, and the mnemonic was a story. Okay, well, here's the deal. This is what this is. And we solved unsolvable problems. Like, why is there lightning and thunder? Well, I guess the gods are angry. Okay, well, that solved that problem, and everyone accepted that answer. So, you know, I think, you know, we have this, I mean, it is truly, you know, linked to our oldest, you know, essence, is this need for story, regardless of what the medium is. Just comic books are a very unique form of story that it's not movies, it's not television, it's not a book. It's completely different. And
I love it.
And it takes an inordinate amount of work to do them. You know, I mean, everyone in that chain to create that book is a ton of work.
You guys are amazing.
Well, believe me, the ones who are doing it are amazing. I'm now on the sidelines just rooting it on.
Well, I know, but you know what's interesting, Alex, is I recognized your name when you came in.
No.
And that is saying something, because how many people do I remember?
Nobody.
I don't remember anything.
You're like me.
No, she names actors, artists, all these things. I don't know who that is. Well, you name the artist of what was that? Born Again. You name the artist of, I couldn't have named that.
Sure.
But you know what's interesting? When you came in, and you were very kind and humble, and I was like, unbelievably, I recognize that name. So I immediately, after you left, I'm like Googling. I'm like, oh, now I remember him. Yeah. But I recognize your name, which is saying something, because I don't remember anything. And,
yeah. Well,
you did some great work.
Oh, thanks. It's my first love. I mean, comic books are my first love. It's a labor of love, and I absolutely tip my cap to everyone who puts the time in to make these things, because they're super unique. I mean, you actually have one of the real greats, especially from the 90s, coming into your shop next month.
We're excited.
Your local guy, Jeff Johnson.
He's so good.
Oh, he's the gem. So Jeff and I guess we're about the same age, but he got in the business a year or so before I did, and his editor was my first editor at Marvel.
Well, no kidding.
Yeah, and I remember, and he was doing Wonder Man at the time, and I was so into that book, and I'm like, well, this is the office that does Wonder Man. I'm so psyched to be in this, in the same office with that guy. Yeah. It was also the same office that did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So we had to temper everything. But and Jeff is, I mean, he is unbelievably good, just such a draftsman, and passionate about the work. So you guys are fortunate to have someone of his caliber.
Yeah. And he's so humble and kind. And he actually came to a drink and draw that we did, I don't know, like 2 years ago. And we were up on the mezzanine, and a bunch of people came. And he sat there and spoke with people who were just there to draw.
Yeah.
And he's amazing with people, and just so humble and so talented.
Oh, he's super talented. You'll have to get him to tell you, if he hasn't tell you the whole origin of the drink and draw, and the con that it was that Dave Johnson pulled to become friends with Dan Panocean and Jeff Johnson. That was it. So I'll leave it there. You can get the rest of the story from Jeff.
Dan did his inks for the Eternals cover that he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dan is, he's crazy good. He's just nutty good. But then again, all those guys on those drink and draw guys are just crazy talented. Dave is a unique talent unto his own in every level. Dave Johnson is, I guess, the cover artist par excellence of my generation, and he's just unbelievably good.
My problem is, of course, I'm bad with names, so there's too many Johnsons already.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, Dave and Jeff have.
How many Morrisseys are there? How many Morrisseys are there?
It's just me and the guy from the Smiths, so that's it.
I was gonna say it's a rock star name.
Yeah.
There's only two of us. We've gotten rid of the rest of them, so it's a pretty good deal for us. How do you feel? Like, I mean, now we're in December, and 9 months have passed, and we're all still sheltering in place to one degree or another. We're all still wearing masks. By the way, my wife still wears the Spider-Man and the kitty cat mask that she got at the store, so she still loves those. So how do you feel like now compared to 7 months ago, and what do you see like 7 months from now for your shop?
Well, I hope we're not wearing masks. It's not easy. Fortunately, we're only open 4 days a week because it's just us two. And occasionally a volunteer helper. It's not easy to have to be in a mask for that many hours a day.
We do miss. I mean, everyone misses seeing people's faces.
And that's another thing. We have a hard time recognizing.
Yeah, I agree.
Steve Wittenberg.
Hey, Steve.
He's amazing.
He's one of our customers.
He should change his name to the Amazing Steven Wittenberg.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. No, we have a lot of patience with trying to make everybody feel comfortable and whatnot, but wearing a mask, yeah.
I don't know, like all of this, when people in, I think April, I heard people saying, gosh, we're going to be doing this for the next year or two.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I was ready to just I'm claustrophobic.
Right.
I'm done because, but I mean, obviously no one enjoys it. No. So I don't know. It will, 7 months from now, we'll find us doing what we need to do to be here for our people. And
we'll figure out a way.
We got to make the best. I hope there are going to be some great comics coming out of this craziness, because I'm like, okay, writers,
yeah, sure. The story
right now.
Yeah, you're sitting at home, write something and draw something.
Well, I mean, it's,
I am. Stop it. Get off my back.
Yeah, I mean, this material, I don't know. It's unprecedented and surreal. I mean, those are words that I'm really tired of feeling.
Well, okay, so let me just refine the question, I guess. So, of course, we all want to not be wearing masks and this to be sort of over as far as the threat factor goes. Let's go that, because it's going to end. The solutions there. I mean, the fact that we were able to have a vaccine that's it is being distributed at this moment within a year is unbelievably fast. It is an incredible achievement of modern day science. So let's just go off the hypothetical that we're all going to be safe and protected in that regard. Are you going to keep any learnings? What learnings, and what changes to your business from the company, the company that you were running 10 months ago to what you would be running 7 months from now with everything being, safe?
I think the main thing for us, and I kind of knew it beforehand, and it was a goal. I had a goal beforehand, and it became very clear that I needed to solidify that goal. My goal is to, because I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to what a lot of stores do. A lot of stores are very, very focused on a particular aspect of the comic industry, whether it be, some are very new comic focused. Some are very old comic focused. Some are heavier in graphic novels, trade paperbacks. Some are heavier in kids' books and young readers. My goal is to be balanced in all four, because no matter what happens, whether it's say we go into a problem where they stop printing again, or store is to widen my customer base so that my new comics, which is right around 40% of our business right now, I'd like that to be closer to 30 or 25, and have, you know, back issues be 25, and graphic novels and trade paperbacks be 25, and graphic novels and trade paperbacks for young readers be 25. In other words, broaden my customer base so that during tougher times, I have a wide range to tap into, a wide range of customers that will be visiting my store or be ordering for curbside or whatever, so that I don't run into a situation where, oh my gosh, 40% of my business is lost because new comics aren't being printed.
I love that approach. Would you keep curbside? Like, is that something you would just like? I mean, if people are not, and it's not an issue, people not feeling,
absolutely
not feeling safe. Like, hey, I'm just like, it's like a drive-through. I mean, once Starbucks opened the drive-through, they ruined the coffee shop experience because like no one's going to get out of their car.
Yeah, we only, believe it or not,
there's a bank around the corner that I would actually like to buy, because then we could like.
It's a building,
it's got the
not a bank.
drive-through.
We're not going to buy the bank.
It's an empty bank, and we could like put the comics in.
No, there's a drive-through window.
Right? Yeah, sure.
It used to be a bank. It used to be a bank. And you know, we got to thinking, wow, we probably should figure out a way to buy that building.
You can roll them up in the tube. You can roll them up in the vacuum tubes and walk them over.
No. They have to come to the window so they can be in the
problem.
Oh my gosh, you could the look of panic on their faces.
That'd be awesome.
My book, The Binding. Okay, well, no, that's cool. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting, and I, you know, my mind is quickly going like, well, how do you make all the steps to get everybody like who's reading current issues, like they're your target audience for your back issues, like the people who are buying the new stuff are their target audience for the back issues. How do you connect them to that back issue? Like my mind is like, okay, well, you need to like know what the storylines and the origins of the characters are, and to be able to say like somehow on your wall that's behind you, Stephen, where the new issues are, you somehow have to connect them from going there then over to the boxes, you know, and to say, you know, hey, if you see this like red dot over here, wherever you see another red dot in the store, that connects to whatever is happening here. And then people go, oh, I got to go check this out, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared when somebody comes in and they really like the current Daredevil run or the current whatever run. We have to be prepared to go, oh, but did you read Bendis's run of Daredevil?
Right. Totally.
You know what I mean? And because it has kind of a similar feel, you know, and be able to do that. And that's why we read so much, and that's why we don't read very deep into a series before we have to.
Someday when I'm old, I'm going to finish everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could give you a quick list of what to skip.
Yeah, well, we've already discovered a few of those.
Yeah. Okay. That's very cool. So this year also brought forth something that hasn't existed to this degree before, which is direct to consumer comic books. So this has been a phenomenon that has happened due to the lack of availability of new comic books, you know, because they weren't being published for a chunk of time this year. Instability in distribution questions with DC, and or fear of going out and going to stores. Like these are the things that compounded, which made for the opportunity for people to say, okay, well, we can put something up on Kickstarter and sell it and go right to the customer. I know it's a direct competition, you know, to brick and mortar retail, just like digital comic books are, to brick and mortar retail. But it's also a ton of comic books that are being produced out there. So how do you guys as retailers, like, do you have ideas of how you could capitalize on that and get them into your stores?
I mean, for me, one of the things we really try to do, and that has been our goal from the beginning, is to help create new readers, whether they're 10 or 15 or 30 or 40. Right. We always get new people in here who are new to comics. And We desperately try to never miss a person and make sure we send them with a free comic. We don't want them to leave empty-handed, because there are people who are like, nah, I don't like comics, you know, but they haven't really actually opened one. So creating new readers, I think, is, you know, that's one of our biggest goals. And I feel like what we see is that there are people who want to come in, they want to look at the books, they want to look at the art on the outside, they want to open them up and look at the art on the inside. And I think
there's an experience.
There will always be that group of people out there. Yes, there will be people who are like, I'm fine to read my stuff digital, and that's fine.
And we find that we can't.
Some people do both.
Yeah. We find that we have a real hard time competing with people who download their comics. It's really hard because they're used to looking at a screen. I can't do it. I can't stand looking at a comic book on a screen.
It's hard because
it's old. Really hard.
No, I don't prefer it myself, but we get reader copies, you know, for guests. So I read, you know, I read the bulk of our guests' comics, you know, on the screen, which is not ideal, but you know, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that we try to create an experience within our store. We have a whole different age groups of free comics that we keep on hand. And when a spouse comes in or a friend comes in, we try to not let anybody leave without something. As a matter of fact, interesting story, she got Jeff Johnson's wife to into reading a few comics.
Well, he gives us credit, but Jeff Johnson tried for a really, really long time to get Megan, his New York best-selling author wife, into comics, and he kept handing her superhero comics. You know? And so she one of the things that I wanted to create was a store that spouses would be willing to come into. And so, you know, she came in and, you know, we found out she loves stories about, you know, women who kick butt. And so,
but not necessarily superheroes. So,
no. So lots of independence,
fantasy.
And so she started a box.
Yeah, she has a subscriber box here.
Oh, cool.
What's she reading?
Yeah, what is Megan reading?
What do adult women read?
I'm pretty sure there are regulations and we're not supposed to.
Yeah, HIPAA. I don't think we can tell that. I know.
Well, what do adult women read?
Believe it or not,
I think Gary's trying to figure out what to get for his lady.
Paper Girls.
There was an Amelia Earhart book that was really amazing that she read.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so well that kind of that dovetails a little into this time of season. What do you guys recommend for people? I mean, Gary was actually inquiring because, you know, he has a lady fair, and he was like, oh, what can we get her that worked for a comic book artist's lady?
Oh wow!
So, like now we kind of go say, hey, what can viewers get for?
What can
I'm
going to embiggen you guys when you start showing stuff.
Okay, so my title of the year.
I know what it is.
It took me. I'm telling you guys.
You know what it is? Oh, you probably read our.
No,
she blabbed on Instagram the other day about it.
Okay, well, this is number 2. So number 3 is out.
Yes.
Live. It's the Miranda brothers, and number 2, like there's some monsters, but the first cover, I don't know where my first print is, but this is the second print. It's on the third print, and it's this beautiful. The story, like this, has everything that I love in a comic book, but it's
great. It's got Jughead. Is that Jughead in there?
It's got a centerfold.
This is a triptych cover.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Sweet.
But these guys, you know how when there's a book that you know the people who put it together like really care, they really love it. And the story, like they had me before the Staples. So they grabbed me and pulled me in, and before I even got halfway through. So And each issue has continued to be amazing. So it's my pick of the year. So we live. Also, I love, this is just from one of my boxes of stuff or my bags that I bought a couple weeks ago. Big Girls was a really good one. Firefly, you guys, if you love Firefly, the whole new run that they did.
Very good.
Was so good. The writing was
superb.
Just perfect. It was great.
Nice. I think
they changed artists on the interior. I'm not sure if I love it as much as I love the first issues, but oh my gosh. And then this one was a surprise for me. It's not normally my kind of book that I would read, but La Diabla, the writing in this book, even though it's sort of a little violent, this book is a definite, especially if you like this guy. It's the first, I guess it's a Lords of Misery prelude. It's not normally the kind of book I would read, but the writing was really fantastic. So there's so much. Like,
The We Live has a very strong Studio Ghibli feel to it. Like it's really, really like the artwork is just its choice.
Yeah, we recommend it for males or female.
Everyone's loving it. It's probably our biggest, like, I feel like it's going to get on our top 10 subscribed list like pretty quick, because a lot of people are picking it up because the first and second issue were so good. They're like, oh. So
not for young readers though, because it's a little violent.
I haven't read number 3 yet though. Number 3 technically drops tomorrow, but I'll be reading that tonight.
Right. After midnight, of course. Right. 12.
I'm definitely going to break that rule. But I'm not going to buy it.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's I don't know. Like, let's see. I was really into reading Legionnaires this year. I got back when they relaunched the book. You guys actually had issue 4, which was unfindable for me here on the East Coast. And so I happened to be 3,000 miles away from home, and I was like, I wonder if this comic book store has the one comic book I'm looking for, and lo and behold, you did.
That's
great.
Good marketing.
We did that just for you.
What was the book that? What's his? The Free Comic Book Day book. What's his name? Who did? It was Chris Samney. Chris Samney did the.
It's Firepower.
Yes, Firepower.
That's in my pile too.
It's fantastic.
I love. Here we go.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Oh, here's We Live number 1. It's a green version.
That's the cover I remember seeing. Yeah.
Firepower. Actually, we had a bunch of people jump on to this subscription too. It was great writing. Not a book I would normally read. That's what I love about comics is there are genres that I normally would not be like, oh, that's going to be a book that I'm going to love. Yeah. But the writing is good. It pulls you in, and then if the art, like.
But I do recommend on that one you read the graphic novel first, because it's the prelude.
Right.
Yeah, because he did not release.
Kirkman always says something.
Yeah, he did something a little different, and he released a graphic novel that's the prelude to that, and it's a little bit harder to get into if you didn't read the prelude. But it's only a $9.99 graphic novel, but you get 5 issues worth of material.
Yeah, Kirkman with Oblivion Song.
I love that.
In our store too.
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, it's so funny you were talking about the store for being for spouses. I mean, I can distinctly remember, in the 90s going into comic stores and talking to retailers and hanging out, and you would see, it was the time that a young woman would walk in the store and ding, 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 and then the shop owner would look over, and the young girl would go, "Is the latest issue of Sandman in?" And they would go, "No, it doesn't come out for 2 weeks." And they go, "Okay," and they'd leave. Like that was it. Like that was comic books for 1% of the population in the 90s, and that was Neil Gaiman had them all. Yeah, and it's so different now because there is such a diversity in story that it's not just fights and tights. There is just happening.
So much. I mean, my dad is dealing with Parkinson's and dementia. So I discovered God Country. And for anyone who has a loved one with Alzheimer's, pick up God Country. It's this, you know, there's just, there's
a
so
story
much
for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think to that point, I'm writing that one down. I think to that point, that's what we're going to get following 2020.
Oh wow, yeah.
We're going to get stories, you know, for everybody, and I don't think they're going to be direct analogs of like this, you know, like a sort of a this is what happened to me story. They're going to be epic tales that are going to this will be something happening that's going to be similar, and I think we're going to get a lot of interesting learnings and points of views coming out, in art. And I think comic books will probably be one of the first to do it because the turnaround time is much quicker than most other forms.
Yeah. Did you guys hear about that? Now I wish I had it sitting here with me. There was an artist in the UK who got about 40 other artists together to do a book called Quarantine. And so we backed the Kickstarter, and it was a beautiful issue. I wish I had it here.
Oh, very cool.
And they had artists from all over. It wasn't just the UK who contributed to this book while, you know, the initial lockdown was happening. And it's a very cool comic. And of course I have this worse selling. I've become a little bit of a speculator. I didn't mean to. I don't know what happened to me, but sometimes I'll buy something and be like, oh, you know, but most of the time, if there's a book like that, I end up selling it out of my box because I'll put
somebody will come in and ask for
somebody
it.
Somebody will be like, hey, do you have this? And we love our subscribers. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, yeah, I've got one.
You'll take it.
We want people to be happy.
Well, that's kind of, I guess that kind of leads me back to where we were talking a little bit earlier, is that if, you know, I was saying about all the directed, you know, customer comic books out there on Kickstarter or GoFundMe. I mean, as a retailer, would you like go cruise Kickstarter and say, oh, that's really cool, that book? I mean, I don't see a whole lot of sort of retailer options on Kickstarter. Like, hey, if you're a retailer and you want to get 5 issues or 10 issues, like click here, you know.
Kind of did that. There was a really good book with Alterna called The 12, and it was a 12 issue.
Was it the 12?
And they had something where they did offer kind of a little bit of a package.
Oh, it was the 12. Yeah.
But Alterna uses comic print or newsprint.
Inexpensive.
I honestly, I would be a big fan of everybody going back to newsprint except for special issues because it smells better. Like it just feels right. You know, I love paper. I love the new books, but for me, like newsprint.
I agree. I like the look of it. I mean, listen, you know, looking at what Gary's been working on, that he's been working on some very, you know, great Photoshop work over his artwork. And here we'll embiggen Gary while we talk about this. But I have this amazing. You know,
yeah, it says you suck.
But I love newsprint. I love the feel of it. I like the desaturated look of the artwork. There's something about it that, you know, works for me. And I get it. It's not for everybody anymore because there's other options. But I also don't like high definition television. So that's, you know,
I think it would be amazing to see, especially if there is a point in which the industry struggles, which we have not yet experienced. Thankfully, you know, we've just been on a growth trajectory here. And different cities obviously are going through very different things. But if they could bring the cost down a little bit instead of, I think the time of comic books continuing to go up in price, that needs to come to an end.
That's going to be very restrictive.
Newsprint, maybe, you know, I don't know.
And maybe a way for intro. And I don't know how they would do it, but it would be nice to have an entry level entry-level books. And quite frankly, when we get enough people going, well, I'd like to take a chance on that, but the number one is now what, $5, $6 because all the number ones are now $4.99, $5.99, and
I think they need to.
I think or just make the number ones less. I mean, take a little bit of a hit on it and get people started.
Right.
That would be smart. Half price, like a less expensive number one. Let people enjoy the story. Image does that with a big variety of their titles.
Graphic novels.
The graphic novels.
Or
the first one is $9.99.
Yeah, that makes it so easy for us to get people to jump on. Is because they get a whole book, and that entry level, that first story arc is $9.99. It obviously won't be very profitable if that's your only story arc. In other words, if it has a beginning and
but if there are 7 after that are
exactly. If there's 7 after that are more expensive, well, then at least it's an entry level starting point. And trying to create entry level starting points for the stores who are trying to expand the readership would be great. It would be great if they did that.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot. I think that, we live in a time where, listen, we've always lived in a time when you can't satisfy everybody. But I think that because the standards are so high, because listen, the artwork has never looked better in comic books than it does now.
You're right.
The printing is leaps and bounds better. The quality of the paper is better. I would love to see what they could do with the quality of printing on newsprint. I think you could probably still get some pretty decent results. It would be an interesting model if, especially if one of the bigger publishers tried it, because they have a lot more latitude on a budget, to figure out hey, let's do a classics run and do inexpensive, issues of the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Avengers, whatever the big, and Spider-Man, and get people to go, I can get into this book or whatever it is. And then maybe other other publishers can follow suit if the model works. I don't know. It could be very cool. Now, any collected editions that you think might be good for gifts this year? I love Bitter Root. That's a great one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
If they haven't already read it, and I haven't read it, so I don't know. I just know it sells really well. Is Monstrous.
I've read the first one.
Yeah. Okay, we don't read much farther than the first one.
No, the art.
Monstrous has been a great seller. That's the Image. That's the Image.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's won every award. Any book ever.
Yeah, I can't vouch for it. All I know is that people look at the artwork and they're immediately hooked. And the first book, I think, has 6 issues in it for $9.99.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it's a great, and that's another one that our female buyers love, and male buyers.
It's very unique.
It's very different. It's a kind of a fantasy, but that one does really good. Recent ones though, because that's been out a couple years. Recent ones, Once in Future.
Okay.
Once in Future.
Gideon Falls.
Gideon
Falls is great.
Yeah.
And Something is Killing the Children for mature audiences.
Gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. That I hear is really
I think I got to read the first 5 floppies, and so that'd be the first volume.
So some of these are like after the fact ones that people caught on to after we had already ordered 5 or 10 of the first one.
Right.
And later they go, oh my gosh, this is great. And that's the way it happened. Fortunately, word of mouth still works. And so
the new Star Wars
all the Star Wars ones are actually pretty.
They are, they overtook Spider-Man in our shop for not only best selling but most subscribed to.
The Mandalorian helps a lot.
But the writing is really good.
A little bit.
The art is beautiful because the Star Wars series is between Empire and Jedi.
Yeah, the recent Star Wars series.
some of that storyline. So it's very fresh.
Yeah.
And if you love Star Wars, it's just people are having so much fun.
I love Star Wars.
Yeah. So I would check that out because people.
And because I love old
one.
Star Wars, this takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So that's my sweet spot. Meaning I really don't care what happened later.
Sure.
Or that's my sweet spot. And I think that's part of the reason of the current series success is because it takes place when people a lot of our, at least us older folk, that's our sweet spot.
The Immortal Hulk run.
Immortal Hulk has been phenomenal.
Yeah, Gary's been read some of the Immortal Hulk, I think, right, Gary? Yeah. And then Sean MacArthur mentioned Low.
Oh, Low's good. Yeah, that's very good.
I have not read that one.
Yeah, that's very good.
And Stephen is just saying to us, no spoilers.
Oh, so yeah.
Well, Stephen, we're not spoiling it. We're just saying.
You know, one of the big surprises was Guardians of the Galaxy, the new run.
Yeah.
That shot right up our chart for subscribers.
Al Ewing has become.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's become quite the author.
He wrote Immortal Hulk, so
yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing. I mean, you make a name as a writer, and then they'll follow you where you go. It's important. So what about I guess people who are publishing their own books. So whether it's a direct to consumer book or they're just making their own books. Do you guys take on books from from creators? So like there's people who are making their own books out there. If they contact you, how would you like to be contacted if you would put books on your retail shelves for people making books?
Yeah.
Email is the best way, preferably with a PDF of the first. I will say we're getting more solicitations now than we ever have because evidently we reached a tier 2 and Diamond doesn't bother sharing that with people because we get
we're getting a lot more now.
But a PDF with the first issue because that's actually how I got introduced to Resonant.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was a PDF and I read it and I go, holy crap, this is great. Now it was right up my alley because it's post-apocalyptic. And I love post-apocalyptic, so I was like, well.
So this year's been great for you, right, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
But no, a PDF via email. We tend to mostly do local. Yeah. As far as new stuff goes, but if I read something and I like it, preferably a short sales pitch in a paragraph.
Yeah.
We love it when there's an elevator pitch like that. Give us 3 sentences in the first paragraph what it's about. Like grab us by the throat, like right at the beginning.
Well, it's also helpful because if you do like the book, it also gives you something to use. Like you can say, okay, we'll just say that to our customers. I was talking to Gary about this writer who he goes to writing conventions and he'll sit next to like the big name writers, the Brandon Sandersons and the George R.R. Martins, and he'll sit at his own table with no graphics or anything, but stacks of these 3-inch thick books that he writes. And people will walk by and he'll just go, "You like epic fantasy like George Martin and Brandon Sanderson?" And they stop and they go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You'll like this." And he sells it every single time.
That's so cool.
You just need to know your audience and you give your pitch line and that's it. Super short, super quick, and get the people, involved. So if somebody's watching and they want to get their book to you or any retailer, Jami, it's a great thing. Put that pitch in there because that pitch will help the retailer sell your book. And if they sell your book, guess what? They're going to call you or email you and say, "Hey, we want to get 10 more or 15 more, whatever the number is."
We have a local guy who doesn't even, I don't even know if he sells. I think he's got an Etsy or something.
Okay.
But he's now sold 20 plus copies of something that's only in my store and online.
Wow.
it's no place else. And we had somebody from
really
Texas. We had somebody from Texas who now I said, well, I'm not going to ship you anything because we don't ship, but you can buy his comics online. And,
right.
So we're, like I said, if one of us are interested, and quite frankly, we do have barriers. In other words, if it's something that we don't think we can sell,
of course.
And we're always thinking of what our people love to read and what they're reading. But I will always encourage anyone who is self-publishing. First of all, I applaud you for doing it because I know it's a lot of work. But don't wait for, like, we know, like, our daughter is an author and she also is an artist, and we've watched much of her pain as she's done so many different projects. And I would just say, grab us. Like, blew my mind, like, probably not even a quarter of the way through the book. So grab us before the staples, before the middle of that first issue. Yeah. And I feel like if you can do that, you will sell your book. You know, my daughter's like, well, no, I have a long game. There's a long game here. And I'm like,
you got to be allowed to stay on the field to play. That's the big thing.
Exactly.
Everybody has a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And because we probably have a dozen new titles a week, not to mention you're competing with things people are already committed to reading. Mm-hmm. So there's a limited budget that people have, and there's a lot of competition. Yep. So trying to create a story, and the easiest way is to, find something that you're like and you're passionate about, and make sure that it grabs that audience. I will say, for us, and it's probably not the same with all stores because some stores are way different than ours, but leave politics out. Don't try to teach me anything.
Take us away.
Take us away to your fantasy land.
Go away.
And I don't want to read about anything that's.
I don't want to be brought back to
reality.
The grit.
Yeah.
No.
Unless that's your goal, in which case there are books that do that, and they do that well.
And there can be.
But there can be.
But for the most part, like.
No.
I think, it is.
Because there is an audience for that stuff. And
people want to feel something.
Most of our customers, but there is an audience.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things to and I've said it to many of our guests, in private conversation, is, you're saying your daughter's saying, "Oh, I've got the long game." The thing is that secrets have no value if your readers don't know that they exist.
Yes.
Right.
So if you, the author, have this great secret that you said, "Oh no," but like in issue 13 or at the end of this novel series, they're going to get their minds blown. Like, the reader needs to be invested. You have to invest your reader somehow and let the reader in on what the secret is, so they're going, "Oh, okay. Oh, this me," and away you go. You just got to get that. You got to get that reader. Hey, we have a question here. Sean is asking, as a couple in business, what are some of your tips that you can give other couples in business that are just starting out?
Wow.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
I would say
that is a good one.
Be prepared for some serious boot camp. Because living together and working together, like, he was on the road a lot, and we found out
before we
started this, we found out that after having, raising 4 kids and him being on the road, that we had kind of forgotten how to communicate well. Yeah. And having a business together is boot camp, and it gets gritty, and sometimes it gets really challenging. Like, sometimes when you pray for patience, and then you get all kinds of opportunities to have to learn to be patient. So it's been, we've had to kind of try to do some boundaries and go, okay, we're going to try not to talk business 24/7, because both of us are very passionate. We still, when we open the door every morning we get here, we're like, first of all, thank God nobody broke in. And then secondly, it's like, this is awesome. We get to do this, and we get to share a happy place with other people, and with each other, and that we got to do this together has been one of the happiest. I mean, we've been together a long time.
And discussing the vision. Discussing the vision is huge because
it gets gritty though.
Because we both gone different directions with some of our vision. She wanted to have a little bit more gifty.
We did try that a
more
little bit,
gifty section. I wanted to have a little bit more I wanted to have a little bit more board games. And then we went back and we went, you know, what's our core business? Our core business is comic books. Let's focus on that and realize, and that communication where you go, okay, what's the vision? What's the goal? And we have both financial goals and sales goals, obviously, but also personal goals, and making sure that we share those personal goals. Because if one person's only 100% into this and the other person, you end up going separate directions. Yeah,
you got to be on the same page for sure, even though you like different elements of that page. Like if that page was folded into an origami, something, you know. But practically, I would say definitely. There's a book called Strengths Finder 2.0. Okay. I recommend that to everybody, like no matter what field you're in, to find out.
We'll start with Strength Finder.
Well,
2.0 is the second one.
Oh, well, it's the one where basically you take the test and you find out.
Personality strengths.
The premise is finding your 5 top strengths in a field of like 40. And it definitely helps us to remember, okay, I am like future thinking, futuristic. I'm an ideas person, and everything that happens, I process like, what will this look like in the future? He's super analytical. We have different approaches to everything. And so knowing that about each other, I think helps us to operate, and for him to give me grace to know, okay, I know that this future thinking she does to like want to franchise a store in every state in the United States, because there are a lot of cities out there that can be road cities, and you know, where they want to just have a different approach to doing comics. And then he's very grounded. He likes math, you know, and I'm a dreamer. And so there's a balance there. But I would say, if any, it would be helpful to know each other's gifts so that you're not like, oh my gosh, you drive me crazy with all the details. Well, he's analytical.
Sure.
And I can appreciate that about him, that's a strength for him.
Well, I mean, if you're, you know, listen, if the colonel says we need you guys to get to this location or take this location, it's not just putting a pin on the map and just going, okay, well, that's what we're gonna do. There's a long series of processes that need to come into play when it comes to planning and execution. So if Jami, you're saying, hey, I really want to do this, and Stephen is not saying that's insane, and he goes, okay, well, this has practical, you know, application. He's going to now create a plan to get to those, you know, all the steps necessary to achieve that. And what you come up with, Jami, that's the you know, having the franchises, that's called the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. And when it comes in business, that's what that's called, is the big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah, so many hags up in here.
Yeah, you have to have that. You have to have that sort of almost nearly unachievable goal that you put out there, because you've got to keep striving for whatever that thing is. And a practical thing, Sean, or anybody else in business, is that you also need to know what a jettison point is when it comes to business in the terms of being out there. You have to say, okay, well, what is it? If we pay our bills using the credit card for 3 months in a row, is that the point? Like, okay, we've done that. That's the mark. And there's no sort of like, you've defined it. So it's not a personal thing anymore. You just go, okay, well, that's what it was. We hit the 3 months. We did it all on the credit card. We tried. We got to stop now, and we got to go get a real job or whatever. We've punched the eject button on so many parts of our business. We're about to franchise out. In other words, give
certain collectible toys.
Yeah.
We had a very.
It's a customer that we care about.
It's a customer
who needed was doing a business model.
Yeah, he's going to start up a business, and
action figures are not our.
Yeah.
What makes our heart go pitter patter.
So we realize that's a money loss. That's a portion of our business, or that's a business by itself.
It is.
That's a whole separate following. So being able to punch the eject button on something that's not winning, something that's
especially as a comic store, at least our comic store, we get them last. Like we'll have people order whole waves of the Marvel. I just forgot what they are. They'll order the cases.
Yeah.
And they keep calling us like, hey, I see Target's got such and such a wave, and we're the last ones to get them. I don't know why. And so we're like, this is not our favorite.
And I will say this with regard, and this is a kind of a little bit deep, but when it comes to dreaming and building your own business, I would highly recommend being able to leave it quickly, because you need the money to pay the bills.
Yep.
And I've told all my kids this, pay the bills first. And then when you get to a spot where you can take a risk and do it. In other words, I hear all these people, follow your dreams. Well, we didn't follow our dreams till we had the financial stability to follow our dreams.
Yeah.
I don't always recommend that, because
well,
it depends on what's important to you. If
our kids were out of the house, so nobody was going to starve but us.
Nobody is going to starve but us. So it depends on what you have at risk, and take your chances according to the people you need to support, or people who are relying on you for support. Because I wasn't real. She wanted to do this a long time ago.
Well, our kids were still in high school.
She wanted to
I
do
wanted
this
them
a long
to learn
time
the
ago,
business.
and I said no.
Right.
I wanted to be able to pay the bills with a semi-guarantee, and I
have insurance.
And I don't regret any of my 20 years in pharmaceuticals. I don't regret it at all, because it paid the bills and it provided a launch pad for me to pursue my dreams, which is what we're doing now.
No, totally.
Don't go broke. Don't go into huge debt pursuing your dreams too early before you pursue something that actually provides for you and the people around you.
This is kombucha now.
Okay.
It's vanilla blossom.
Nice.
It's delightful. I think that it's a balance thing, because for us, we know that we did invest retirement money. We did it more frugally than anything we read online of what it costs to start a comic shop. Like we came in, I think, about 10,000 under what the basic estimate would be. And it's funny because we're white and black and everything's bare and kind of looks like a gallery, oh my gosh, the first year we got hit with so many people coming in trying to get us to do this advertising, that. Like, people think we're loaded. It's like, no, we canceled cable. We're like, we are living so frugally. We're trying to minimize kind of what our outgoing expenses are. And I'm at Starbucks for benefits. Like you gotta love it. Make sure you love it. I would say above and beyond everything, you got to be willing to sacrifice kind of some of the extras to go after it. There's balance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we can't listen. Not everybody can be the superstar. No one's discovered immediately. I mean, most of everyone has to work really hard just to get by. Yeah. Let alone succeed. But loving what you do, and enjoying what you do, enjoying the challenges and even the setbacks. That's where the real true joy happens.
Sure.
In that chase. Wow. Yeah. Well, this has been great. I'm really glad that we can make this happen. Yeah. This has been a long time in the making. Gary, do you want to show us what you've been working on briefly?
Yeah. I've got a couple different things.
I know. I want to see the couple.
This is I started this a couple of episodes ago, and I think I'm finally finished coloring it now.
I love his t-shirt there.
Yeah,
you suck. This is we started this.
Oh, that was from our Darth Vader appreciation episode.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
amazing.
This is my character from United Forces with his chainsaw sabers.
Skill, his hat, skill saw.
Yeah,
That's
I like
awesome.
that.
And then this was from the last episode, I think. I'm not sure.
Yes, that was from the last episode.
So this is an artist named Scott Cherry. He does a thing called Barbarian Rage, and he takes pictures of this puppet that he made, this action figure thing. So I added my characters into this and made it Barbarian Forces.
Yeah,
So.
Gary creates creates what we call a mashup often of our guests' characters and his characters. I can't recommend Barbarian Rage enough. It's
amazing.
It's the most unique and interesting comic. You definitely check out the episode last week. He makes all of these puppets. He sculpts them and casts them. They're beautiful. And he photographs it and puts the word balloons in the story. It is funny and mesmerizing.
Is he the guy that had the He-Man that was only painted on the front?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I saw some of that. That was awesome.
So this is the photo he sent me, and then I played around with it to make it look like that.
Nice.
That is
So,
so cool.
But that's the actual that's his puppet hanging by a string in the California desert.
Wow.
there's another picture that he took and he sent me to use.
That's
But
amazing.
I never used it. And let me see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. It's absolutely rad. He's amazing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's great. I love
it.
Really,
it's just so different than anything else.
It is.
And it's
really cool.
And it's funny. It's not for kids, but it's great.
It's not for kids.
No, not in the least.
Lots of swears.
But yeah, guys, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a blast. I want to make sure that we're addressing, like to people who are into, if they're making comic books or they're fans of comic books, like there's all these different aspects about the people in the industry. Like we're having a former marketing guy from Marvel and Dark Horse on the show in a couple of weeks. And then we have a freelance marketer coming on in the new year. I mean, we're really trying to get a wide variety of people to show what it is. And you guys have a great shop. I mean, anybody who happens to be in or near Medford, Oregon, head on over to Rogue City Comic Books because it's great. You can see Grogu right there.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
There we go.
But yeah, it's a great shop. You guys are fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for taking your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Shelf stocking night to talk.
Well, thank you so much for having us on. It's one big happy family, and we all need each other.
Yeah, well,
True.
have fun with Jeff next month. Have a great holiday sales. I hope you guys just crush it. I hope people are just buying everything in your store for the rest of the year. Wait, there we go. There you go. You guys are blessings in the community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, we feel blessed to get to be here and do this with everybody.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And I will swing by the shop next time I'm in town.
For sure. Let us know ahead of time. Because I do have a bunch of your back issues and we do have fans.
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys, I'm sure you can shim up a table or something with them.
Nah, we got a desk for you.
Great.
Yeah, we have an artist kiosk.
We had an artist kiosk.
Yes, I've seen where you had a signing not too long ago. So
please let us know. Seriously, if you are in the area, we would love to have you.
Well, I have I have multiple members of the family living in that town. So yes.
Oh, excellent.
So now you have no excuse.
Yep.
I have no excuse, really. I don't. That's what they keep telling me. I do have an excuse. I'm like, there's a pandemic. I can't get out there.
Well, luckily, there's rarely like more than 10 people in most comic shops at any given time.
Yeah. Well,
it's easy. Crowd control is pretty easy.
Yeah, no, that's true. Right now, it's pretty good. You know,
we'll put a bouncer at the door to make sure you don't get over.
Have the bouncer do this. They're out the door quick.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm really bad at this closing thing. That's Phil's job. So like, click, subscribe, and all that kind of jazz. Find us on Instagram, all that silly stuff.
And that's on Facebook.
Oh, and Facebook. Yeah, I keep forgetting that thing exists.
That's where we get more of the streams on there.
Yeah,
nice.
Facebook. Great job, Zuck. All right, guys. It was wonderful to see you. Have a wonderful holiday. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, thanks.
Good night.